Hey, guys out there in Facebook world. This is Barry Page with Legacy Money. I'm excited today to share an interesting topic, especially in today's world. It's freedom of choice. Now, today our freedoms are being stolen right in front of our eyes. It's all in the name of fear, scarcity. There are many things going on, as you're aware of, I'm sure, that are blocking our freedoms. Our liberty is being taken. We can't congregate. We can't run our businesses. We've been told to stay home. And my friend Zig Ziglar said, fear is false evidence appearing real. That is exactly what we have going on. And people really don't know who to believe: the media, the government, the WHO, the CDC. There are many out there screaming. And it reminds me, and I just wanted to read something for you here. It's Bible scripture, and wanted to read it for you here, if I can find it. Um, it's from 1 Corinthians 14:8. It says, "For if the trumpet give an uncertain sound, who shall prepare himself to the battle?" Well, folks, we are at battle, and the trumpet is sounding. The problem is most people just don't know who to listen to. And I want to encourage you to do some of your own research. But I'm going to be covering some things today, some issues that will allow you to take control, how you can get control back from the banks, the government, and some ways that maybe you've lost your job. I spoke to a client just this morning who had lost their job, and maybe that's you. But I'm going to be sharing some things with you. I also have a guest with us today. His name is Hollis Day, and I'll introduce him in a minute. But Hollis works with alternative investments, so maybe you're considering some different ways to invest or save money. He also runs a radio show, Sage Money Radio. So he'll be joining us here in a quick bit. But really, there are some things that I wanted to share with you. And this is what you're going to get out of listening today. We'll be covering quite a few topics, but here's what you need to know. If you haven't figured it all out already, you need an emergency fund. Okay. And I'm not talking a week, 2 weeks. I'm talking 6 months to 2 years that you need liquid capital available just for times like these, for tough times. You're also going to learn the critical difference, if you, again, haven't figured it out already, between saving and investing. So many people have their money locked up in investments right now. They don't have access to it. And then you're also going to have, some solutions, a place that you can access capital. So we'll talk further about that and how you can actually multiply your returns just by using your capital. So I'm going to be asking some questions, some polls here in a little bit, and you'll be able to kind of chime in on that. But also, the real reason that it's so hard for us to get our message out to others. And before we get started, I also just wanted to read a real quick quote from Charles Swindoll. He's a favorite pastor of mine. He says, "We have a choice every day regarding the attitude that we'll embrace for the day. Life is 10% what happens to us and 90% how we react to it. Our attitude is everything. So your attitude going forward through this pandemic crisis um, is everything. You need to be able to rely upon yourself. You can always rely on the Word of God and His faithfulness. So I pray that you have faith, and if you don't, that you will come to know Christ. But really, again, we're living in a really different time. So um, at this point, I just want to introduce to you my guest today. His name is Hollis Day. Um, and I'm working with a couple of different computers here, so just bear with me. Hollis, you are live on YouTube. Uh, will you tell us, and hopefully everybody's able to hear this on Facebook as well, because we're going through a couple different channels here. But Hollis Day, tell us a little bit about yourself and your radio show.
Hey, Barry, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. So I have a talk radio show on a conservative talk radio station here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And I've been doing that for almost 9 years now. And I just get on there and talk about ways for people's money to make money other than Wall Street. And, you and I are lined up on some of those strategies. Married to my high school sweetheart. I have 4 kids, 2 boys, 2 girls in that order. And they are in or just finished up. In fact, today was your last day of school, 11th grade, 10th grade, 9th grade, 7th grade. So our house is pretty much, yeah. And it's a lot of fun when they have a friend over. I call it organized chaos. My wife's a teacher where they go to school, and all involved in sports. We're a Christian family. We believe in Jesus Christ. We go to church. We read our Bibles. My kids attend a Christian school. So, that's living the dream, man. I even have the white picket fence. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, tell me, since we're talking about freedom and family here, what does when it comes to freedom, what does that mean to you? Tell us what does freedom mean to you? I know you post a lot, and I get your texts and messages. And I know you have a strong heart when it comes to that. Tell us, what does freedom mean to you, Hollis?
Freedom is, first of all, I've really, really sunk my heels into the history of this country within the last couple of months. I've always been a traditionalist. I've always appreciated history, appreciated the generations before us. That, Barry, when you look back at the wars and World War II, I mean, there's no reason to think that if some things don't go certain ways, we're speaking German or Japanese right now. Before that, obviously, the American Revolution, which got this country from under the tyrant of the king. And so I've really gotten into that just the past 2 months because of so many things going on right now. And I've watched some, documentaries about the American Revolution. I'm reading some books, and there's some very similar times that Americans went through back then that we're going through now. I live in Louisiana, obviously in Baton Rouge, and our governor here, and unfortunately, politics kind of gets into everything we do, but the governor is the only statewide elected official that's a Democrat. And man, I've just been really frustrated with him because I feel like he is, and I see, Barry, just like you, I have friends that own small businesses that are getting absolutely crushed right now. I see, restaurants in the Baton Rouge area that have been here 40 years. They're done. Several of them closed down. They're never opening back up. One of them closed down, and the next day somebody bought it, and here they're going to tear the building down and use it for a parking lot. That's been a 3rd generational restaurant here in Baton Rouge. So I see what the shutdown the economy is, and I know you do a lot of reading like I do as far as where we get our news from, Barry, and I pay money. pay a lot of money to people where I get my news sources from, and it's not Fox News and CNN and MSNBC. So I feel like I get a lot of good, pure news that's not leaning one way or the other. It's the facts. And this whole thing, this whole crisis. Look, I got my haircut today, and it's a shame because the man one chair over from me got his haircut, and he must have been new there. And so after him and the guy cutting his hair and the man receiving his haircut at the end there, I mean, they had a nice conversation as I was talking with my barber. And when they got up, I looked over there, Barry, they wanted to shake hands. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know if the other one wanted to shake his hand. The guy cutting his hair had a mask on. And I'm thinking, and look, I got angry when I saw that. I got angry. And then the person cutting my hair, I said, look, I don't know how you feel, but I am furious with the Chinese government right now. I said, not Chinese people, I'm talking about the Chinese communist government for doing this to us. She goes, well, I'm gonna take it a step further. I'm gonna make sure that my family, that we don't go to any more nail salons and we're not eating more Chinese food. I said, well, do what you feel is comfortable. But I've gotten angry with this, and not since I was about 24 years old when 9/11 hit. I was furious when that happened. Came very close to joining the Navy, just out of pure impulsive reaction, and I didn't. But I haven't been that mad at another country since then, and I'm furious because I feel like everything is changing. And Bear, especially here in the South, whenever you see one of your buddies from high school that you hadn't seen maybe in 5 or 6 years or even a year, it's kind of a handshake and a hug, right? A man is kind of a hug. People just don't, people are cautious now. And that's what aggravates me and angers me, is that the Chi-Coms have us almost fearful of one another. So freedom is, to me, getting back to answer the question, freedom is doing what I want to do when I want to do it. And obviously obeying the laws. We have to have laws. I'm not an anarchist, but just going, and I've always, and as a strong Christian, I've always said, Lord, thank you. I've always said this, like Barry, when I go eat a good meal, I walk out, I literally say out loud, Lord, thank you for letting me have a good visit with my friend and for that good meal I just had. And I just enjoy things like that, because in this country, we can, if you have a wild hair down here in Louisiana and you want to get up and go drive to Connecticut,
right,
it's amazing. I mean, we have the infrastructure. The Lord gave Americans ingenuity to build roads and infrastructure. It's amazing. And I didn't think about this stuff when I was a kid, but as I got older, I just really appreciate the people that's come before us to lay it down. And I just want to make sure that it's still here and to do my job and take care of it. But freedom is having the ability to choose to do what you want to do.
And that's all. And I know that you you work with everything from alternative investments to, you do radio, obviously, but you just mentioned something, and you mentioned church and thanking God. What about religious liberty? How has that affected you? Are you able to go to church now?
Yeah, so our church shut down like everybody. Our church shut down like everyone else's. We went online. I was okay with that for about 2 weeks, and I tell them, because we would wake our kids up. Kids thought they were going to sleep in. We wake them up, get them down there, and we, all 6 of us, kind of around big TV, watch the preacher preach. I don't like it, and I knew it was just temporary. But there was a church, Barry, there's a little town. It's actually called Central Louisiana, but it's really just the north port of Baton Rouge. And there was a pastor there. I mean, he made national news. They ended up putting an ankle bracelet on him and all this stuff. And when this whole thing happened with him, he was defying the governor's orders, having service on Wednesday nights, Sunday morning, all that. I was thinking, if my church was having service right now, and look, Barry, this is right when all this first happened. I wouldn't have went, but I would have went probably in about week 4. I would have went back in week 4 is when I feel comfortable. But this guy, I was thinking, look, this preacher, if he's a grown adult, if his congregation are grown adults and they want to come hear him preach, they should have that right. They should. Is it irresponsible? That's another argument. They should have the right. And again, I just go back to, what's the difference between between going in Costco, Home Depot, or Lowe's, where you can't go sit down and hear a man preach. There is no difference to me. And so I absolutely think the far radical left, who that hate America and everything it stands for, this is another way for them to try to oppress the Christians. The Christians.
Right. So tell me, I mean, what, other than, what you've said already, I mean, why should everyday Americans be, concerned about that? Maybe somebody that doesn't go to church or doesn't know the Lord, why should that concern them when it comes to their liberties?
Because from church, the next time it's going to be something else. Right now it's just church. The next time it's going to be, I mean, look, my wife and I, we were at Costco today, and I was aggravated because we had to wear masks. Well, 10 minutes in, I took mine down. I said, you know what? If they kick me out, they kick me out. I couldn't breathe wearing the mask. I wasn't doing it to be, a horse's butt. I couldn't breathe. It's going to be, if they take one freedom away, it's just going to lead to others down the road. And you go back and look what this country was founded upon, and you'll see real quick how important it is to be able to gather and worship as Americans and not have a governor or a president or anyone tell you that you cannot do that. If you're an adult and you want to go do that, and there's a preacher that's willing to preach, and he's there on his own accord, then both of you should be able to go meet and listen and talk.
Right.
COVID-19 or not, because Barry, this is just the next. There's going to be something. There are 2 weeks into this. They were talking about the second wave.
Right.
So it's going to be something else. And again, what this goes back to, you hit the nail on the head, Barry. How you open up this show, fear. It's a way to put fear into us.
So tell me, Hollis, just kind of shifting gears here a little bit now. The current economy, what's it like over there? I know you're in the oil and gas industry. That's, you teach people about alternative investments, and I want to get into that kind of as a solution or an option for people. But what's the current economic environment like right now in Baton Rouge? I mean, are people getting laid off? Is business as usual? Businesses closed? What's it like over there where you are?
Yeah, so today on the road, I saw the most vehicles I've seen since this has happened. Louisiana just kind of kicked things off again on Monday. Restaurants can open up at 25% capacity, and I'm thinking, what restaurant can, there's been several restaurants that said we're not doing it. We're going to wait till we can at least open 50. So I'm thinking, what are they doing in the meantime though? So yeah, like you, I have friends that are business owners. I've seen them. I've talked to them, tried to help them out. I used to manage nursing homes years ago. Man, that's a tough business right now to be in. I would not want to be a nursing home administrator right now. Just had a friend of mine I talked to 3 weeks ago. His mom's in a nursing home. He hadn't seen her, since the lockdown. It's been 6 weeks. She died yesterday.
Oh.
So now she didn't die of COVID-19. She was just old. She passed away. But that was 6 weeks. He could have been seeing his mother that he couldn't see again. Right. Yeah. Then I get angry when I think about that. I get angry with the Chinese.
Similar story. I got a friend. His dad has dementia. Same thing. In a nursing home, he can't see him.
But I filled up with gas today for $1.34. The lowest I filled up was $1.19. That's bad. I don't. A lot of the consumers get happy about that. I don't like that because I'm knee deep in the oil and gas industry as far as an investor. But lots of oil and gas companies right now are laying people off and are going to file bankruptcy and won't ever come back. That's not good, obviously. I have a friend who owns several Smoothie Kings. He was telling me the other day that the amount of unemployment, the notices that he got from people, and most of his employees are LSU students. He might have a manager that's working there, like that's their job, but most of these kids are working, 15, 25 hours a week. And so the kids that he fired or they quit or they moved on, it's just amazing the unemployment paperwork that he received saying that this person, he's like, man, this person didn't work for me in 2 years. I don't know where they're at now. If I, so he's having to deal with that. So just different things. Different businesses are affected obviously in different ways, but it's hurting.
Yeah.
My wife's a school teacher, so fortunately she, nothing happened to her. As you know, Barry, what aggravates me too is a lot of these bureaucrats, a lot of these elected and non-elected bureaucrats that are making these decisions, they haven't missed a penny of their pay, not a copper penny. And they're telling the barber and the hairdresser, you can't open back up.
Right.
That's, somebody. So again, I have a problem with a tyrant person telling me what I can and what I can't do if I'm not harming anyone else.
I hear you, my friend. Well, let's shift gears a little bit here, and talk about, specifically what you do. Tell everyone what exactly is an alternative investment, and how can people learn more about this?
Alternative investments are usually strategies that you don't have access, that a person doesn't have access to if they go to their traditional broker on Wall Street. And what's crazy is that Wall Street, they invest in these strategies, but they're not available to the general public. So I'm a salaried employee for an oil and gas company. Been with them for about close to 10 years, and about a year after they started. And we're a small company, when it comes just, size is relative. But so if you had told me, Barry, whatever day that was in April, that Monday that oil went below zero, if you would tell me Sunday night, hey, Hollis, tomorrow oil's going to trade below zero, I would have said, Barry, that's impossible, because I like numbers. And it's very, my moral compass is it's black and white. There's no gray area. I said, well, Barry, that can't happen. That's impossible. It can't trade below zero. Well, obviously it did. Well, I got a couple of text messages and phone calls from people like, Hollis, what does this mean? And I said, I don't know what this means. Well, our company had a conference call that night. Actually, it was a big web meeting at 7. And I didn't know this, but we were locked in a contract, Barry, for the month of April, I think at $30.18. So every barrel of oil we extracted from the ground, we sold for $30.18 the whole month of April. So our company was fine during that. Where it really hurt was, and again, I'm not, don't have a lot of knowledge in this, but the guys that do the day trading and the future contracts, that's where the guys got caught. Where, I know one story, a guy had 70 grand when he started that day, and then he ended up owing 2 million by the end of the day because he kept buying these contracts thinking it couldn't go lower. But literally there's no place to put the oil, Barry. Right now we have ships in the ocean right now just holding oil as storage. But our company, we were kind of expecting something like this. Now, nothing like COVID-19, but before all this, there was kind of a chest bumping contest going on between Russia and Saudi Arabia.
Right.
See, I guess you had too much, so you had the most testosterone. So we were predicting oil to be in the low 30s, high 20s for a couple months. And our CEO called and got as many frac tanks as he could to store on site. And those frac tanks ran out we rent those for $12.75 a day. So he got as many as he could. And so like I told you, for the month of April, we were pumping and selling. Now for the month of May, we were pumping and storing. And excuse me. And when oil is extracted from the ground, it's about a 90-day lag period before you're paid for it. So obviously, the check for basically September will be nothing because we didn't sell any oil in May. But that's a couple months down the road. So yeah, we're just pumping and storing right now. I do think we're gonna start selling again in June. And in fact, we have extra storage space. We've been renting out some of our tanks, just kind of subleasing them to other companies who are doing the same thing we are. It all comes down to price of oil per barrel. And some of these companies, I got several stories, but one of the most recent ones, we were looking at a piece of property, another lease from a company, and we looked at it about 8 or 9 months ago, and I think they wanted like $10.5 million for it. So we tried making an offer, and they backed out of the deal, and they took off the market. Well, they called us, and I think we just closed on it last Friday. they called us back. And so instead of, I think it's like 10.4, we ended up getting it for like 3.8. Now that's great for our company. And that means that company that we got it from was leveraged, to probably a mid 40 price of oil per barrel to break even. And obviously we're not even sniffing that right now. So they're having to do what a lot of businesses are, Barry, just in any industry. It's all about cash flow. So they need cash to make ends meet. So, again, our company benefited from that, but it's not good for the industry.
Right. Well, I know that, you also do a little saving privately, as I do. But tell us what you feel like why should people look for alternatives? Why should they be concerned about the markets or about government plans that most people are invested in heavily? What do you feel like is the concern there, and what are you doing specifically to protect yourself?
Well, Barry, you and I definitely agree on this particular strategy that that we can talk about. It comes back to taxes, and I've asked this question to probably 200 people over the years. Do you think taxes are going to be higher or lower in the future? You know that nobody has ever said to me lower. Not a single person, Barry, has answered that question lower. So then it's like, well, then why do you keep contributing to your 401k then? Right. And then they just sit there like, I don't know, Hollis. So that's a conversation in itself. But I absolutely, eat my home cooking when it comes to the oil and gas, and when it comes to this strategy that you and I love so much. It's weird, and when I heard this years ago, I thought it was kind of corny. And you and I were probably in the same meeting when it was said. But one of the guys said, "Yeah, I look forward to paying my yearly, my yearly contribution." And I was thinking, golly, but Barry, that's the truth, because it's so solid and it's so safe, and it just works. And it's obviously when I talk about oil and gas, I can't say the word guaranteed because it's not.
Right.
If our company files bankruptcy, we're out. I'm out a bunch of money. A lot of people are too. If this goes bad, Barry, life won't matter, because we'll be answering our doors with shotguns, scourging for food. If this particular strategy goes south, that's how safe it is. Tier 1 asset. Banks love it. It's safe as bonds, yet it's tax-free whenever you pull it out. So if someone really truly believes taxes will be higher, now Barry, how can someone say now, as we just print money? I mean, we just print money like there's no tomorrow. And now the far left radicals are trying to print more money to put things that COVID-19 necessarily didn't affect. And I'm just thinking, I mean, these people not taking economics class in college? Because you can't do that. It can't happen. It doesn't. The government doesn't function like us. I mean, me and you, Barry, we have to go hustle, to pay our mortgage, to pay our bills, to help our kids. Government doesn't do that because it's not their money. It's our money. I mean, we're the ones funding them.
Right.
And so, yeah, the strategy you and I talk about, I don't know if you want to, reveal its name or whatever, but I absolutely love it. And the more people I show it to, they're like, Hollis, I never knew you could do this with this, because it has some people have it's a hurdle to get over the name of it.
Yeah. Well, I'll we'll go ahead and we'll talk about that, and I'll come back to you and kind of close up. But that's a good segue because the strategy that Hollis is talking about is a private reserve, and a lot of people are advisors, agents, scared to really share what it is. And then there's other agents that don't want to mention it because they don't make any money with it. Most representatives and most financial gurus shun away from it. But what it is life insurance, and specifically a specifically designed life insurance contract. You can't buy this stuff off the shelf. You can't buy it online. You have to work with an agent that understands this stuff. So because there's a lot of bells and whistles. There's a lot of products out there, but it is a safe place to store money. It's been around for hundreds of years. It predates the IRS. It predates the Federal Reserve, and it pays dividends. And dividends aren't guaranteed, but the carriers, the companies if you build the plans the way that we do, then they've been doing this for well over 100 years. So that's a pretty good track record. Again, longer than the IRS or the Federal Reserve have even been around. But I want to kind of wrap up. I don't want to take too much time, but I do want to wrap up. And I'll just mention kind of the silver lining. First of all, I think, Hollis, all the things that you discussed, I know gas, you had $1.30, $1.40 a gallon around here. I don't know if we'll.
Barry, it's a simple, it's a simple, in Louisiana, I used to tell people, I used to boil crawfish in the springtime for extra money for my family. And I enjoy doing it. I used to tell people, look, if you truly want to know how supply and demand works, you could teach someone about crawfish and just look at crawfish in Louisiana and learn a lesson on supply and demand. I mean, It's absolutely amazing, supply and demand in crawfish. Yes. But Barry, right now that's what's going on with oil. Sure. It's just supply and demand. We have got to get people driving again. Right. Look, Barry, I'll tell you this too. I think we've cut too much. I think there's going to be an overcorrection. Now we do think the oil is going to bottom out a little bit more, but we think it's going to rebound in probably the first quarter of 2021, and it's going to probably hit 65, 70 bucks a barrel and probably stay there for a little while, which is really that's. 65 bucks a barrel, man, everybody wins. The refineries win there, the investors win there, the consumers aren't getting gas at the pump. Everybody's a winner there. And so again, supply and demand is what is what's driving that right now. As you know that. We got to get people driving again, flying again to get that. Yeah.
Exactly. So the low prices should be good for travel, the travel industry, the airlines trying to get back on their feet. Obviously, some people are profiting well from the virus, companies like Amazon that are shipping products. But probably another silver lining that I really see is that people are just rethinking. And that's really why I wanted to do this live webcast today, is just to talk about these freedoms that we have. And we are free as of now. But I wanted to just read a quote here. This is an article that was printed on FEE, the Economic Institute, and it said, freedom in this sense should be noted. Freedom of, not freedom from. To the preposition is of great importance, for the latter represent not different aspects of the same thing, but entirely different conditions. And it goes on to mention FDR. So many people are trying to compare today to the Great Depression. Well, as you know, out of the Great Depression came the New Deal. And, of course, some people want to talk about that got us out of the Depression. Well, actually, what it brought was what Hollis was just speaking of, and that's higher taxes. Taxes went up to as high as 94% if you were in the highest income tax brackets. So Mr. Roosevelt, following along in this article and the quote, meant security from want and fear, not freedom or liberty. And that's what we're talking about here today, folks, is freedom and liberty. Many philosophers, including Ben Franklin, and Thomas Jefferson, have pointed out that freedom and security are inconsistent human conditions. Indeed, make freedom of choice into freedom from choice, and one comes to a close definition of slavery. So, folks, that's really where we are today. We're in an economic environment of tyranny, of slavery is what they're trying to push on us, yet they want to tout and talk about slave owners and compare our president to a dictator. It's really scary, but a win-win situation gives us choice in our society. Choices to run businesses, to have laissez-faire, to have market conditions, to let the markets kind of guide business, not government regulation. So I wanted to kind of close up and just, I'll read a few headlines if you haven't already, but here's one that I posted yesterday. Some of you might have read it already, but it said New York will hire contract tracing army of 17,000 to battle coronavirus. That's from Forbes. And I had a poll, but I'm not going to ask it. I'll just ask you, if there is a vaccine, will you get the vaccine? Will you take the vaccine? You can just ask that of yourself. I don't think I will, at least not anytime soon.
Yeah, Barry, I've learned as I gotten older to never say never. Okay.
Right.
Just like you said, though, there's no way I would take it in the next couple of years. It'd have to be out for several years. And I'd only take it if I had to travel out of the country or something, and they said I had to have it. I mean, I have no interest in taking that vaccine.
Yeah.
And actually it's frustrating, surprising that they're just rushing. They're trying to rush this thing through. I mean, that should concern everyone. But Barry, there's just that group of people who just trust the government. And again, I don't dislike our government, but our government's it's gotten too big. Like you said a while ago, you just mentioned about government regulations. We have too many. We need government to get out of our way so we can make a living and then pay the taxes that we owe. And the more regulations we have, the worse, the harder it is to do that. So yeah, the vaccine is definitely. And then when you go back and look, Barry, you do the reading and see who's pushing the vaccine and who has ownership in these companies that are pushing. Some of these big pharma companies that are kind of in the race for this vaccine. I'm gonna choose not to take it anytime soon.
Yeah. Well, you brought up, government earlier and how they get paid through all of this. I was just reading an article about the federal employees retirement system. And, many people have that, but specifically Congress. Members of Congress are eligible for a pension, first of all. And that average pension, okay, is about $174,000 a year. And compared to the average American that might have a pension, it's approximately about $10,000 per year. And when you combine that with Social Security, maybe they get $40,000 total, which puts them over the threshold. So even their Social Security income will be taxed at that point. But back to
actually, it'll be double taxed.
Yeah,
it's already been taxed.
Yeah, because it's already been a tax, right?
Right.
But also, there's more millionaires in Congress when none of them earn a millionaire's salary, and that's really disgusting, is how this article describes it. So,
Barry, I don't know if you ever read. There's a little pamphlet when you mentioned some of those guys' names a while ago. Benjamin Franklin, and Jefferson. Yeah, there's a guy named Thomas Paine.
Oh yeah.
Who wrote a little pamphlet called Common Sense.
Yeah.
And there's a quote, January of 1776, government, even in its best state, is but a necessary evil.
Yes.
In its worst state, an intolerable one.
Right.
Man, that is so true.
Strong, isn't it?
Yeah, because it was, Barry, I love America. I love this country. But our government's gotten so big, and the far radical left, I mean, they want everybody working for the government. And I think we have too many government employees. So really, it's just a mindset there of dependability and some other things. Yeah. Also, too, Barry, it was what's aggravating too is these bureaucrats who make these decisions about double taxing our Social Security, and go back to Obamacare. They're elitist. They make these laws for us, but yet they exempt themselves from the very laws that they're saying that y'all need to live by. We know what's best for you. And I reject that. And again, I go back to what you and I, we love this strategy of the life insurance and how we fund it. And you and I eat our home cooking. We believe in that. Right. There's no way I could ever why would I tell someone how great a Chevy is when I drive a Ford? Right. Unless the Ford just did bad or something. I mean, you have to eat your own cooking. So that's when I, going back to finding people, hey, what do you do with your money? People ask you what you do with your money. You can tell them and you back it up and you can show them how to do the same thing. Right.
So I'll just kind of finish on that note here. I'm looking at an article that was on Fox Business about the banks no longer offering HELOCs. So a question again, I had this in a poll, but I'm just going to ask it, where do you store your capital? Is it in the bank? Is it in a retirement plan? Is it under your mattress? Is it in a safe? Well, something that I've, many people, most of their money, their wealth is tied up in their homes, their house. And something I learned many years ago, actually from Rich Dad Poor Dad author Robert Kiyosaki, is your house is not your asset, it's the lender's. So, unless your house is completely paid off, you're not in control. And so the banks, again, they've closed down HELOCs, lines of credit. But the good news is there is a better way. And, Hollis and I have touched on it. But it's called the infinite banking concept. And it's a way that you can actually use your money, use your capital while it continues to grow. So maybe once we get out of this crisis pandemic that we're in, and business opens up, maybe you've lost your job, maybe you need access to capital. That's what this can do for you. Maybe there's an opportunity. Maybe you want to invest in oil and gas. Maybe you want to invest in real estate. Then you can access the capital. So that's what this infinite banking concept can do for you. And, Hollis just, mentioned that, people don't really quite understand, I don't think, what's really going on with their retirement plan. So first of all, if you can answer this question, do you trust the government with your money? Right?
No.
So the government is the one that manages these qualified plans, these 401ks, these IRAs. The rules change yearly. And, we've talked about if taxes are going to go up or down in the future. But the great fallacy, Hollis, is that people will be in a lower tax bracket when they retire. Well, if that's true, then you're just saying that you're going to be poor. That means you're going to have to live on less income than you have today. And you might be thinking, well, my house will be paid for, my kids will be grown. Well, those are your only two tax deductions if you have those today. So those will be gone. Where will you go for money? So the government tells you when you can get the money out of these qualified plans. Right now it's 59 and a half. But just like Social Security, they can change that from 62 to 65 to 67. Then they force you to get it today at age 70 and a half. So why do they?
Basically an 11-year window when you can do what you want with your own money.
Yeah, exactly. But you're going to pay taxes. And what will the tax liability be when you get that money? So that's a question that you have to ask yourself. And I just wanted to kind of wrap up.
Barry, I want to say something. One last thing on that too. Yeah. You and I were probably in a meeting together when I heard this. I mean, I didn't think of this on my own, but I heard this, and I say it all the time now. When somebody has money in a retirement account, let's just say $500,000. Somebody's worked 25, 30 years somewhere. They got $500,000 in a 401k.
Right.
Let's just say they're lucky, and 25% of that goes to the government.
Yeah.
Okay. So now 375 is theirs. 375,000 is theirs.
Right.
But the whole time this is going on, they're paying a management fee on the entire thing. So they're paying someone a fee to manage money, to manage basically a fourth of the money that they're never going to get.
Right.
Man, when I heard that, I said, "Oh my gosh, that is a profound statement."
Right. So the management fee is on the entire amount. Like you said, they'll never get it. And the question really is, even when you do get it, people say, "Oh, well, I'm not going to take it in a lump sum. I'll take it over time." So here's the question. Well, if you do that, do you want to pay taxes for the rest of your life? Right? Because that's what's going to happen. And I'll kind of close with this quote, because if you're still trying to figure all this stuff out, believe me, the banks and the government want to make it confusing. So that way you just throw your hands up and you do what Hollis just said. You turn your money over to a money manager that wants to manage your money. The average American doesn't need a babysitter for their money. I'll say that again. You don't need a babysitter to manage your money. Okay. Unless you're a multimillionaire, you shouldn't have any problem. The difference is these money managers get paid whether or not you make money or not. And the average American actually doesn't get that high of return. Just looking at a Dalbar study, I believe it's about 3 to 4% that people earn over time on their money. And again, you've got fees, you got taxes, you've got risk. You know, what if you had to retire today when the market is as volatile as it is? Very scary thought. But here's what Albert Einstein said about the tax code. He said, the hardest thing in the world to understand is the income tax. And that's coming from Albert Einstein, a pretty smart guy. So that's really all I wanted to cover with you today. If you want to get in touch with me, you can go to our website, or if you're on Facebook Live right now, and just book a call, an introductory call. There's no cost, there's no obligation. We'll just learn more about each other and see if what I do might be a match for what you're looking for. Hollis, thank you for joining us today. Why don't you just tell people how they might be able to get in touch with you? How can people contact you if they want to learn more about alternative investments, or how can they listen to your radio show?
Yeah, so they can go to the website, sagemoneyradio.com. That's SAGE, sagemoneyradio.com. I'm on WJBO AM 1150 in Baton Rouge every Saturday from 11 to 12. It's an iHeart station, so they can type in Sage Money Radio on the search on the iHeart app. That's a free app that someone can download and listen to other episodes. And there's a little contact me on the website as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Hollis, for joining us today. Thank you out there. I want to encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Legacy Money. And if you haven't already, like our Facebook page. And I do appreciate you joining us. If you want to schedule a time with either one of us, just go to our websites, sagemoneyradio.com and legacyinsuranceagency.com. So thank you for viewing. Thank you for your time. We'll see you next time. Join us next Wednesday live at 5 or on our YouTube channel 24/7.
Thanks, Barry. Enjoyed it, man. Have a good evening.